welcome back MIshana Hosseinioun, who has been with us, drafter of the International Convention of Human Rights. Recently, she's been in the Middle East to mobilize the Arab and Islamic world in that drafting process. And since that time that you were here, you've gotten your bachelor's degree from the University of California. You're off to Oxford.
That's right.
As a Clarendon Scholar. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, there's a real benefit to having you, and an honor, because you are our leading video on our site of almost 70, 80 videos around the world. Your video of our last conversation has been viewed 7,000 times. I think part of it is people are intrigued with your idealism. And you don't have to be idealistic. You could be a typical college student. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think some people wonder, well, how's it evolved, especially since you've been in the Middle East there? What's happened to MIshana in the years since you've been with us?
Well, what's happening basically is that I am advancing in some ways. I'm continuing along my path, wherever that's leading, but at the same time, I am stopping to reflect. And I think that that's been the most amazing and the most educational sort of part of this journey.
Now, to brief those who didn't see you the last time, your commitment and your belief is there's a way to bring everyone together to agree to basic human rights and, frankly, to enforce them as well.
Well, what I like to say is at least to agree to disagree. Okay. And that's a starting point.
You were in the Middle East.
Correct.
So much division that's reappearing after centuries between sects and so on. Does that discourage you that while you're going in one direction trying to bring people together, sectarian violence is on the rise, especially in the Middle East?
Well, I don't see myself as going in one direction and the world going in another. I'm actually trying to follow the direction that humanity is headed towards. So I'm not trying to head down a new path and ask people to come along with me, but actually to really lead maybe from behind.
So where is the process now in the drafting of that document that you discussed last time?
Well, you know, because this drafting process is a very lengthy one, and it's sort of slated for 2048, which is the 100th...
2048?
Yes, it's the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
And what is it that you want to see happen in 2048?
Well, what I'm really more interested in is the process that happens now, between now and 2048. We need that time to really create a paradigm shift in our thinking, to initiate a dialogue of civilizations, and to create sort of a foundation for society, a society that would be ready for a document.
And, okay, and you were, but when you met people in the Middle East, you met people not just at the local level, but
yes,
at the organizational level, at governmental level.
Yes, that's right.
What was the reception to the concept? And more importantly, I think we better go back one step. What were you telling them that you're trying to achieve?
I was just telling them that, well, actually, I wasn't really telling them I was trying to achieve anything. I just said, you know, I believe that I'm here and that we're all here in this room or in this shared space, whether it was a conference, whether it was the World Economic Forum on the Middle East that happened at the Dead Sea in Jordan, or the Arab Media Forum in Dubai. I just told them that I believe there's a reason we're all joined together because we are headed down a path of creating a unified sort of plan for how we're going to live together.
And the reception?
You know, I think people are used to, they're used to kind of new, fresh ideas. So they weren't necessarily, they didn't necessarily step back. They were very open and receptive. In fact, they even invited me to present my thoughts and to have a discussion within the mainstream media, for example. I was able to communicate with them in their own language, which was...
I watched it. I watched
really?
one of your interviews. One of your interviews is shared when people go to Google Video to watch one of our interviews. Another one is referenced. And it was fascinating to watch that. Women in the human rights document. And by the way, for people people not realize this is a legal document of many, many pages. I mean, this is not just a declaration in a single page of high ideals. It's a very detailed delineation of human rights.
And it's an unfinished document.
And it's in progress.
That's right.
And that's what you're saying. That's what
Yes.
you're in that progress, in that process,
Yes.
which itself has some benefit. For women, especially in and around the fabric of culture, the many cultures, especially in the Middle East, how does that mesh when the Quran or the religion of Islam might have certain views towards women, and this document is intended to be universal, but it conflicts, or does it conflict?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's why I want to actively invite the participation of the Arab and the Islamic world in this drafting process and in this dialogue, because without their voice, we have no official representation of those cultural and religious values.
And did they feel they could synchronize?
Definitely. I went out there asking to really hold their hand in this process, and they were very receptive.
All right, now, we also, people ask, you come from the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Yes.
Do you feel that the San Francisco Bay Area itself generates the kind of idealism and commitment that you're expressing, which is one of the reasons we wanted you on? Of course, you were with the Mayor Newsom's office at the time as well. You're not with him now, I don't think.
No.
But is there anything special about either the University of California or the Bay Area that causes people to have the ability to look beyond what's reality and look at a possible ideal?
Well, I'd like to think that any environment can be conducive to that kind of thinking and that kind of action. So I think that what we have here is the freedom of, no, really, I think that any other country can sort of cultivate and foster a generation of people who are capable of making change.
Who else is joining you in this? Do you have other colleagues, right, are there other colleagues working that are in your age group, from your perspective? Tell us about some of the other people that are leading this process.
Okay. Well, it was very interesting to see Mary Robinson over when I was traveling. I also visited Vienna to attend the UN Global Forum on Reinventing Government, and she was speaking there, and she's going to be our keynote speaker at our conference next year. Is a conference that's going to be dedicated to taking a long-range view of human rights. And so she's the former president of Ireland. She's the past head of High Commissioner for Human Rights at the UN, and she represents one of those amazing leaders, an ex-leader who is dedicated to fully realizing rights.
She shares your vision then.
She has her own vision too. What we want to do is to bring in the vision of diversity of people. We don't want a sort of unilateral or a very simple vision. We want to make it as inclusive as possible.
We talked about this, the idea that the more you have these ex-leaders of countries who have all the prestige and, more importantly, have all the experience, that adds a lot of credibility to the process you're talking about.
True. Because they've gone through tough times, and they've learned from mistakes, they've learned from their experience, and now we have to go to them to learn how we can move forward.
Now, what's the relation with the actual United Nations organizations that are supposedly advocating for the same kind of principles?
There's no direct relation, but
what's your opinion of them?
My opinion?
Yeah, I mean, because it's institutionalized. It's not like it's just a piece of paper. It's based on a United Nations agency.
That's right.
And so I'm kind of curious, without my own prejudice, to know your view of the United Nations in that respect.
It's
in
really
promoting human rights.
It's about enhancing the role of the United Nations internationally, but not only the United Nations, but the nations that are united or not currently united.
Well, I mean, do you support their work? Do you support the United Nations work, or do you feel that maybe it's become too bureaucratic?
You know, I will only support the things that I feel are being productive.
Are they productive?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. And it's about reevaluating what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong.
We talked about the role of women within the context of basic, universal human rights.
Yes.
How about religion itself? Never has there been so much, I think, in recent times, religious persecution throughout the world, not just in the Middle East. And how do you get past that? How do you get past the fact that people passionately have these beliefs that they think are inspired, each of them think that's inspired by God, and they behave accordingly, but not necessarily according to universal human rights? That's what concerns me, is that I don't see people coming together in that way as much as you do, but you do.
Well, I think the problems we're seeing in the world right now are not necessarily driven by religion. A lot of times it's simply poverty and lack of education. And so for that reason, I really believe that religion can be used for very productive means.
And you're saying within the basic universal human rights document, it does address education and health care.
Of course.
In other words, material needs.
That's right.
Well, so now what happens now? Where do you go from here? What do you want to achieve? Yeah, I know you're going to Oxford to study, but what do you think the next step will be in the process for you?
I just think it's about having belief. It's ironic, actually, that we're talking about faith and sort of the rise of faith or religions in this day and age. But I think that there's possibly a decline in belief in the self. And if we can all just have that same amount of faith that we're able to do something positive or to change the direction of, the current direction of society for the better, then that's what I'm looking towards.
Your example of the ex-Prime Minister of Ireland's a perfect example. Do you find a lot of people...
Ex-President, yeah.
President. Do you find a lot of people who believe what you just said? That yes, if you commit to it, it can happen?
Definitely.
Or do you feel alone sometimes that too many people are jaded and see too many of the differences in the news of the world, and they can't lift themselves up from that perspective?
I think focusing on those differences gives us an easy excuse out, because it's very difficult. This is a very difficult endeavor.
But you found other people you found an abundance of people. It's not like just 4 or 5 people. You do find that there are a lot of committed people that believe this.
There are committed people out there, but the problem is that they're working by themselves. And so I want to find a way to really get these people together.
All right, so we're going to check back with you, MIshana.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
Wish you the best for the sake of the world. MIshana Hosseinioun. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. For program schedules, post-production notes, and free streaming video of select interviews, visit our website at www.sfunscripted.com.